Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And do the roll call.
Catherine Carter, President. Rebecca Moody, Vice President.
Here.
Janice Hall, Commissioner.
Here.
Liz McNaney, Commissioner.
Here.
Gregory Mull, Commissioner.
Here.
Sandra Zidell, Township Manager.
Here.
Megan Hurst, Assistant Township Manager.
Here.
Lauren Gallagher, Township Solicitor.
Here.
David Conroy, Zoning Officer.
Thank you. Lauren, you have any executive session? Yes, the board did meet in executive session earlier this morning to discuss matters of potential litigation. Thank you. Next, we have public comments. Please state your name and if you're a resident or non-resident when you come to the mic. Thank you for respecting the 5-minute rule and practicing decorum. Our goal is to always give you the most complete and correct answers to your questions from our staff who are experts in these areas. For that reason, you have the option of enclosing your email address in the registry if you would like us to reach out to you during the week with a full answer to your questions. In the past, we've had some residents who are concerned that if we answered questions offline, so to speak, the residents who wanted to hear the answer publicly would be left out. So we will continue to share our answers to any questions that were posed publicly but not were answered privately at the following public meeting. First up for public comment this evening is Robert Harzik.
Robert J. Hartnett, no comment.
Oh, no comment.
You don't have a comment?
I have no comment.
Oh, okay, we're good. There's some new faces here. If you do have a public comment, if you signed up for the list, you just come up to the microphone that's right there with the podium and just make sure the green light's on so that we can all hear you. As our meetings are streamed online, the microphones catch that and then people can hear what we're saying at home.
Next up, Carl Smith.
Yes, Carl. Lights on. Okay, there it goes. Carl Smith, yes, I'm a resident. I guess the question I have relating to what we're here to listen to this curative amendment on the zoning ordinance, from what I understand, it is an amendment to disallow boarding house use inside the R2 zoned residential area. If that is correct, my question is, how do you enforce it? Because we've come to this board multiple times talking about a problem on South Broad Street, 1836 to be specific. It's a blue house. It's painted that way intentionally to draw attention to itself. So it's hard to miss by design. And it's also hard to miss the fact that it is a boarding house because there's multiple cars in there. They're all, for the most part, men going in and out of the property. And when we address the question to this board, we're told that in this current state that we're living in, our cultural state, which is different from the Leave It to Beaver days, apparently, the traditional family can't be defined any longer. So if that's the case, and it makes we go all sorts of ways with that, but the issue will be, how are we going to deal with managing that problem anywhere? If you can't manage it there and you're going to pass a law, that will fall under that same amendment you're going to pass. I don't know how that's going to be enforced. So that's the question, if I'm even right on my initial assumption of what this amendment's going to be about.
Thanks, Carl. I was just whispering with Catherine, or not Catherine,
Noticed.
Lauren. We will clarify your questions later in the meeting.
All right.
Not a trick. We really will.
Next up, Yvonne Pocky Sakiro.
Can you hear me? Okay, I am a resident, and I also have a question about the Blue House at 1836. I actually called the zoning officer in Upper Gwynedd. And I stated that there's 8 to 10 parked cars in the parking lot next to the house. And there's always just men walking in and out. And I said, has anyone gone into the house or asked about this, or however you want to put it? And he told me that they did go to the house, but they warned them ahead of time. So there's just one family living there. Now, logically speaking, okay, even when my sons were home, the most cars we had were 4. Okay. So is this residence 4 wives, 12 kids? I mean, unless kids are driving, why are all these cars in the parking lot? So the people who are around the perimeter, their yards face in. They have collected the license plates of all these cars and submitted them to the township, and nothing has been done. There is a huge trash dumpster in the back. I don't have one in the back of my house, so, what exactly is going on? And if you're going to address other boarding houses, this is obviously a boarding house, but zoned residential. So what are you going to do about it?
Megan, could you clarify what the township has done related to 1836 South Broad Street and how it is not classified as a boarding house and why we've come to that determination?
Yes, so we have done a number of enforcement measures as it relates
How?
to the property maintenance.
Now, what did you do? What exactly did
Ma'am, you have to
do?
I'm
let
going to
her- you have to
ask
let
that
her
Megan
answer.
be able to answer the questions that you
Okay,
first
sure.
posed, and then
Go
you
for
can
it.
certainly ask any
what
follow-up
we
questions.
do in our enforcement procedure is first we get the complaint, and our code enforcement officer will send 2 letters initially, giving them a time period of when they need to clean up their property, which we did. And then if they don't do that, we issue a citation that goes to the district court. And then the judge sometimes will allow additional time for the property to be cleaned up. So I don't know if you remember, previously that property was basically pretty much a mess. And they since have come into compliance with removing, there was like mattresses and debris everywhere. So they did come into compliance with that. We also obtained an administrative search warrant with the judge
Mhm.
that allowed our code enforcement officer to enter the house legally. And he did do an inspection of that property.
Mhm.
There were a number of items that they needed to do to get that house up to code compliance.
Mhm.
After they did that, they were able to show that they were operating as a family unit,
Mhm.
which means that they're using all one cooking facility. There's not any like locks or anything on the individual doors. So code enforcement wise, they are currently compliant with the code as it relates to property maintenance and operating as a family unit.
Okay.
And I'd like
so-
to add to Megan, what Megan stated, that the township can only operate within the laws that we are afforded. Just like we can't come to your house, knock on the door and say, hey, we want to check out inside your house.
I don't know. They did that during the Biden administration. So
We did not. The township absolutely did
Mhm.
not come and knock on your door and
Mhm.
enter your home without an administrative search warrant. That
Mhm.
never happened in Upper Gwynedd Township. I want to be
Okay.
very clear about that.
okay.
I also want to be very clear that we follow those rules because we believe in the Constitution of the United States, which says we as government cannot just come into your home and observe it. We need to get a warrant from a judge to do that. And that's the process we followed.
And you have to notify them ahead of time.
Absolutely, that's required
Okay,
by
so they
law.
cleared up whatever they needed to clear up
Ma'am, the township has done everything it can on that property. It's operating as a family unit.
with 10 cars.
There's no regulation on the number of cars that any family in this township can have at its residence, as long as there's available parking.
That doesn't make any sense to me, but
It's the same as the township can't tell you how many cars you have on your property.
I understand that. But if you're saying it's a single family unit, okay? How
is a
many
single-family unit.
people are driving in that single family unit?
The township doesn't ask that question. There's no code that addresses that in the township.
If you think about it like this, like, do you want the government telling you how many people can be in your family? I think I know the answer is probably no, because most of us as Americans don't want the government telling us how many people can be in our family. It applies also to the residents of that home.
all we see going in that house are single men.
Ma'am, the township has investigated this, that property is being operated as a family unit.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
So you're not going to use that as a boarding house. All right. Thank you.
Next up, Susan Savanovich. Peter Devonovich. Savanovich.
Yeah, we live at 328 Swedesford Road. Our property line boundary is across, right next to the driveway, the Halsey, former Halsey. I don't know what you want to refer to it as now, but so I have several photos I've been taking show exactly how close everybody's parking. This is our boundary line. It's better if I could share these later, but show, because there's so many cars parked in there. They're parked right along our boundary line. Now, in October, I saw a young male behind a car like that, facing our house. First of all our windows, our kitchen, our family room, 2 bedrooms upstairs, another bathroom, and where we eat, face this. We're that close. And I saw a young male there with his pants down to his knees, getting something out of his backpack, putting in his underwear before he went in there.
I'm going to interrupt you to tell you should call the police if you see things like that.
I'm sorry.
I'm just going to interrupt to say that if you see something like that in the future,
Yeah,
please
well, it
dial
happened. So I
911.
wasn't like, look, I just
I know.
noticed. It's strange when you see a guy with his pants down.
100% agree that's strange. I just want to make sure, a lot of times when I speak to residents, they resist calling 911 because they think maybe
Well,
it's not an emergency, but you
Yeah,
100%
it happened so
can.
quick that it was. The other thing is, since they've moved in, this is what we have to look at: the bright lights in every room. We have to close the doors at night, like in the bathroom, because it's so bright. It shines into other rooms. Now, what normal house has a lighting like that? And since they put the lights up, they've been out like that every night. And all these cars at night coming in and out, picking up people, dropping people off. They're parking there. A lot of times they have their cars aimed at our house with their headlights on for 15, 20 minutes. And they're also parked alongside our driveway with the headlights on like that. Now, that is not a normal boarding house or, home environment. I think I'll stop there.
Thank you.
Pardon me?
No, he lives
No,
on
I'm talking
Swedesford.
about the unpaved
Carl, he
private
lives on
road
Swedesford Road.
that is along our border in the back. So we're approximately 150, 60 feet from that driveway where I showed you where those cars are. That's our door. And we have a patio in the back, which is even closer. So we see the brunt of it. I mean, since they moved in, it's just been a total, it's like an invasion of privacy with all those cars there looking into our house.
And just to be clear, sir, this is not the Broad Street property that
No,
Mr.
this is
Smith was referring to. This is a different property.
The
And
308
what's-
Halsey property, yeah.
Thank you.
We couldn't hear you when you started. I assume we were talking about that. We really couldn't hear
Well,
you.
right now we're in public comment, so you can talk about anything under the sun that you'd like
well,
to talk
that's,
about.
that's the Halsey.
Yeah.
Okay, then I shall stop.
But you're,
It's not the Halsey's property.
Huh?
It's not the Halsey's property. The Halsey's property is.
Well, no, I
Folks,
didn't
we're-
mean that. I meant the
we-
former, because I don't know what you're referring to as the 308.
Gwynedd.
We
Correct.
can't have people shouting out from the audience. Again, this is being
Okay.
live streamed. This is this gentleman's public comment, so you're welcome to offer your public comment, but we can't have people shouting from the audience.
Okay,
We understand where you're talking about.
okay, thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Todd Pelkey.
Good morning, everyone. My
morning.
name is Todd Pelkey. I am a resident. I live at 342 6th Street, and sorry for shouting out. Pete's actually my neighbor. So many of the things that Pete just shared with you guys, my wife, myself, and my 2 daughters also have the same concern. So even though my address is 6th Street and my driveway is on 6th Street, the entire property faces in the direction of 308 Gwynedd. So at night, good luck sleeping with a window open, your blinds open. They do have 2 big spotlights that are facing right towards my bedroom window as well. I have a camera that's on my on my doorbell. 15 to 20 times a day, I get notifications on people driving in and out of that property. There's 2 white vans that are constantly shuttling people in and out of there, in addition to anywhere from 4 to 6 vehicles. One of you mentioned available or allotted parking. Very difficult to park 2 vans and 6 cars on that property without parking on a lawn. Maybe it's their property, maybe it's the boundary on Pete's property. There's also a paper road section back there, and you have setbacks off of property lines. So it's hard to imagine a scenario in which you can park that many vehicles and support that many people at that property and not be in violation of some sort of parking ordinance. And I want to make it clear that, and I can't speak for all the other residents in the neighborhood, but this is a big issue for us. I mean, I have 2 kids, 4 and 7. They play in my front yard because I don't have a large backyard. I actually have a sewer easement through my backyard. So they have to spend most of their time playing in my front yard. And, we moved in, it'll be 9 years ago, I think in April, and having this 15 to 20 transits every day is not happening. I mean, they're in and out of there at almost all hours, but a bulk of it is during the day, right? When kids are going to be playing. We have, I think, 12 or 13 kids in the neighborhood between the ages of like 2 and 12. They ride their bikes. It's bad enough with the Amazon drivers. Right? There's no speed bumps, and it's just constant traffic in and out of there. I also want to make clear that, so I have family members that have struggled with drug addiction. I have a family member with Down syndrome that, have both, I would say, fallen victim to unlicensed and unregulated group and boarding home scenarios. And it's awful. And, from the research I've done, I've been able to find absolutely nothing about these people that are operating at 308 Gwynedd. And that leads me to believe that probably all of the improvements that were done to the property, all of the building that was done, because, that place it needed a complete gut and rehab, and it was turned very quickly. No one saw a for sale sign. It was magically just scooped up one day, sold. Next thing you know, dumpsters, trucks, vans, in and out of there. Within a couple of months, they had gutted and rehabbed the whole property. And then there was 2 cars and a van, 4 cars, 6 cars, without any communication. They are not a part of the neighborhood, nothing. So I would, whatever language you guys are looking at adopting, I mean, I read the resolution. I understand that there's, the Fair Housing Act, and there's some things that you need to do to allow for certain living scenarios. I would just caution you to be prudent in how you word and what is and is not allowed in the township, because people think they're going into some of these situations to get help. They think they're going in there because they can't afford, other treatment or other living arrangements. And the things that can come out of it are truly horrific. So that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Todd, I just wanted to thank you for your comment. I can tell from your personal experience that you have compassion in your heart for folks with disabilities, with Down syndrome, or folks that might be suffering with drug and alcohol abuse. I think a lot of the commissioners here also probably share some of those same sentiments. And I believe possibly, at least the intent as far as I see is possibly to address some of those concerns, to make sure folks are operating in areas that they should be operating in. The idea is there could be a number of these organizations operating, and we don't know until a situation arises. And if there's no issue that bubbles up, maybe they're good neighbors. There's a very there's a compassionate element to it as well, that integration into the community is absolutely pivotal to include them into our society and help in their recovery. So dotting them on the outskirts of the business areas where nobody else lives, and that might not be the most practical, but making sure people are operating legally and the right facilities are operating, I think is very important, because you're 100% right. There's a lot of horrible organizations out there that do not have the best interest of their patient involved. And yeah.
So thank you for that. And you actually reminded me of one piece that I left out that I wanted to. So, we talk about being in the right place, right? At the property that we're talking about, there are a lot of cars. It sounds like the property on Broad Street also has a lot of cars. But a single family or residential neighborhood is not a good, in my opinion, is not a good place for these types of organizations, simply because you don't have the infrastructure, you don't have public transportation, you don't have all of the things that are really designed to support a group of people living in close proximity in small square footage and small properties. And, we're talking about neighborhoods that have, anywheres from a third to, I think some of the properties in our neighborhood have, 2 or 3 acres. It's really designed to be more of a spread out, truly suburban. There's nothing about the area that we're in that says, hey, we should have multifamily, we should have multi-unit, or we should have, densely populated living situations.
So we're
Thank
talking
you.
about drugs and alcohol. What about folks, I'm just, I don't want to belabor it, but what about folks that have mental or cognitive disabilities that live permanently in a residence that maybe don't drive? Maybe I'm thinking of group homes for folks with developmental disabilities, cognitive deficiencies. And I might not be using the proper terminology. But those folks wouldn't access to public transportation necessarily. So I know that we're talking about rehabilitation, drugs and alcohol, but there's a variety of facilities like that would be encapsulated under the zoning, not just limited to those.
Yep.
So there's a lot to consider here, and I know these 2 properties are incredibly important to you guys.
Yep.
But there's more definitions and more subparts of that. So I think when Solicitor Gallagher goes through the resolution, I think that might be parsed out and explained a little more.
Yep. Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to move to number 6 and allow, Megan, could you pull it up, please? And Lauren, could you explain the resolution?
Thank you, President Carter. You've all had the opportunity to review a copy of Resolution 29-2025. What this is a procedure allowed under the Municipalities Planning Code, Section 609.2, called a municipal curative amendment. This resolution allows the township to start that process. This does not change any legislation in the township. It essentially directs Mr. Conroy and myself to look at the zoning code to determine whether there is a substantive invalidity in the code with regard to certain definitions and the locations where certain defined uses are permitted within the township. So again, this just starts that process, and it allows the township to thoughtfully engage in that process while
Megan, can you stop there for a second? Go back down. Right there. Whereas the Board of Commissioners has become aware that portions of the zoning ordinance may be considered substantially invalid, namely the provisions that define certain uses and which regulate their permissibility in certain zoning districts within a township. Just wanted to make that clear.
Right. So the township was made aware that there may be some concerns with portions of the zoning code. Now that matter has concluded, the township is taking this opportunity to address those concerns that were raised and determine whether or not there is in fact a substantive invalidity, and proceed through the municipal curative amendment process if there is in fact a substantive invalidity. Sorry, it's early in the morning. That's a mouthful to get through. So again, this is not legislation in the township. This is a resolution directing that such legislation be prepared for future consideration by this board. If there is a zoning ordinance amendment, that will go through the normal process of this township, which means that it will go in front of the Township Planning Commission, it will go to the Montgomery County Planning Commission, and then it will come in front of this board. The Municipalities Planning Code allows the township 180 days from today, if this resolution passes, to complete that process. And we will likely have another resolution after Dave and I are able to do a little bit more of a deep dive into this in the coming weeks that will address the specific provisions that we're taking a look at, if there's anything in addition to what we set forth here.
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion to adopt Resolution 29-2025, declaring a portion of the Upper Gwynedd Township zoning ordinance substantively invalid and proposing to prepare a municipal curative amendment to cure such invalidity pursuant to Section 609.2 of the municipality's planning code. Do I have a second?
So moved.
I have a motion and a second. Any board comments?
One quick point of clarification, just to make sure that it's clear. We're not saying that there's a portion of our zoning ordinance that is substantively invalid. We're saying we want to review to confirm whether or not it is.
So the way that the municipality's planning code is phrased, we are declaring that there is an invalidity, but the code and the relevant case law does allow us to evaluate it. And if ultimately we determine there is no invalidity, we can pass a resolution accordingly. So this is a pause button that allows the township to investigate this.
Thank you.
I had a couple questions. So these are about our zoning rules, and we're saying that they could be, if I understand it, they could be outdated or unclear. So we're looking into this to make sure that they are updated and clearly defined, correct?
Correct. And while we're going through this process, again, it does not allow anyone to file a substantive invalidity challenge to our ordinance. It does allow people to continue to file variance requests that were related to this or any other part of the township.
So it's just for us to help make sure that rules are fair, rules follow state law, and people know what is allowed to be built where. Is that kind of what the three main things that we're looking into? Just to put it into non-legal terms, for clarity.
I think that is an accurate summary.
All right, thank you.
Any public comments?
We're going to address the woman in the green. Oh, we're coming up for. No, it's
No, you
okay.
come on
If
up.
you were coming up for a public comment, you may. You just have to come up to the microphone.
Yeah.
Come on up. Yeah, thank you. And then gentleman in I think it's
Burgundy.
Bob, my friend. Your name's not Jeff. It's Bob. Got it today.
So what do you need from me? Do I need to introduce
You
myself?
need to tell us your name and whether or not you're a resident of Upper Gwynedd Township.
My name is Kimberly Glass, and I am a resident of Upper Gwynedd Township. Question about the statement you made. So you have just asked for a motion to not just proceed to review whether code is fair with regard to a number of issues, but also to invalidate existing code?
It's declaring that the Board of Commissioners believes that there is an invalidity in the code, and we'd like the opportunity to review it and correct it if we determine that is.
But the code stands as valid and enforceable during the period of time that you're doing whatever considering you need to do.
Yeah, the code is still enforceable. What this does is it forecloses any challenges to the provisions that we're citing in this resolution. So if somebody comes in and says, we believe that there's an invalidity with regard to short-term rentals, this ordinance puts a pause button on that and allows the township to address that in its own course.
Thank you. And then just a procedural question. So the fact that you are having this discussion, comments are, you've closed the period of time during which public comments can be made?
Public comments can always still be made at any of our board meetings, and you can also reach out to staff to share any comments you have.
Okay.
What's going to happen if the board passes this resolution is we as staff, Dave is our zoning officer, Lauren is our solicitor, me as the township manager, will make recommendations to the board of potential changes that they may want to make to our zoning ordinance. If those changes are perceived as good to the board, we will then go through a full ordinance process, which starts with, we review it inside as staff. Then we have a plan review committee, which is a subcommittee of the board and some of our consultants, such as our township engineer and our township solicitor and our zoning officer. Then it goes to the planning commission, our Upper Gwynedd Planning Commission, which is run by volunteers in the community that are your neighbors. Then it goes to the board, is publicly advertised, go to the board for consideration, and the board gets to vote on it. So there's still quite a lot of public process that will be happening.
Okay. So I would like to make a comment if now is the appropriate time, kind of consistent with comments that have been made. I live at 300 Gwynedd Avenue, which is the Halsey property, right next to 308 Gwynedd. And we actually share the private road that they access every day, 10, 12, 15, 20 times a day, is in fact my driveway. And so as you consider whatever changes you need to make, I have experienced on a driveway that is not the width of a road, not even the width of a wide driveway, cars at that residence passing me in the driveway when I stop at the mailbox in both directions. They have to drive on Todd's property to do that. I have experienced because they are using a driveway as a parking lot. I have experienced needing to wait to get into my own driveway because they are using my driveway where I park to make U-turns because it's easier to use my driveway is circular, to use my driveway to make a U-turn, to drop somebody off, than it is to figure out how to back out of that driveway. So whatever considerations you are making with regard to where it's appropriate to put a business in a residential community, consider access. And I was born in that house, spent my first 18 years there, and my last 16 years there. Never, ever has there been an issue with cars needing to pass one another on other people's grass. Never, not once. We've had Thanksgivings, multiple families in the neighborhood. There's always a way. And they are a business and they operate as a business without consideration for those around them or respect for people's property lines. They've parked in our yard. They've installed mailboxes and trash cans and other things on our property without consideration. So again, as you consider these whatever guidelines need to be in place, I think having access to your business without going through someone else's property would be an important one. That's it. Thank you.
I am Robert J. Harkaric. I live at 320 Swedesburg Road. I agree with everything Pete Simonovich said. I mean, we look at their lights all the time too, 24/7. And when I did notice over the past 2 nights, they have turned off every outside light for whatever reason. So it's just a lot of strange occurrences. Just a couple of quick comments. I pulled the police reports that I right to know. In a matter of 2-month period, there were 11 police town Upper Gwynedd dispatches, 2 fire dispatches, one lasting probably close to 4 hours, and it was at night. There were 5 medical dispatches and their welfare. There's 1 drug overdose, which actually violates Chapter 70 of the Upper Gwynedd Code. I don't know if anything was done about that, but that's public record. Civil dispute, 1 police call for that, and as well as others that we've heard, just loud disturbances that we never say, not kids playing, disturbances, shouting. Provide Wellness, the non-existent Wayne Housing LLC and 30 Gwynedd do list that as a boarding house per the variance request that was rescinded a few weeks ago at the 25th meeting, I believe. So you think about the people that are in the house. We have no idea about these people, but all of these people, like Provide Wellness, they're attached to mental and alcohol and substance abuse issues and the treatments thereof. The concern is I think we have a lot of people in that house that are unknowns, but among the mental health issues that provides claims to treat, there's a couple of them here is like borderline personality disorder. Okay. That's a condition that involves a pattern of unstable moods, behavior, and relationships. And then, again, this is a quote unquote family residence. They're defining family. Another one, dissociative disorders, conditions that involve a disconnect between a person's thoughts, memories, feelings, actions, or sense of identity. Schizophrenia, chronic and severe mental disorder that affects how a person thinks, feels, and behaves. Individuals may experience hallucinations, delusions, and disorganized thinking. Substance abuse and addictive disorders, problematic pattern of using a substance that results in impairment or distress. And bipolar disorder, characterized by extreme mood swings that include emotional highs, manic, and lows, depression. That said, the substances potentially involved here, cocaine, crack, fentanyl, hallucinogenics, heroin, inhalants, ketamine, LSD, methamphetamines, mushrooms, opiates, Oxycontin, alcohol, etc. And the final, just so, we all know what could be in our backyard and exposing, who knows what's going to happen with the kids playing and everything else. We just don't know. The other question is, they are operating a for-profit business in a residential zone. How long can they just continue to just operate? Could they be cease and desisted until we resolve this whole matter? Or do we just let this operation continue? Can I start something? Can I start a boarding house or a brothel or whatever else? Can I do that in my neighborhood and get away with it for the 6 months approximately time that these guys are just doing it before something gets done? And there's a very clear distinction between a boarding house and a halfway house. They're very different entities that we probably should all Google and get a rough idea of what that is. And thank you for your time and especially your patience with an old guy that's just whining away.
Bob, some of those definitions are codified, and some of the attempt here, and without addressing everybody's comments, I think the attempt of this resolution is to address some of the very concerns and the ambiguities that all of you are raising. So when you don't Google the definitions, we have them codified in the township ordinances and codes. So that's where you'd look for those definitions. Family is defined specifically, and Lauren can speak to that. That's not necessarily. I know that you brought up personality disorders and substance use disorders. If we dissolved every family in the township that qualified under some type of personality disorder or abused alcohol, we wouldn't have very many families left because we kind of fetishize alcohol for some reason in our society. But I would say that we hear your concerns, but possibly consider that maybe this resolution is an attempt to possibly address some of those concerns that you folks are raising.
Recognize that I agree. Thank you so much.
I want to clarify one thing. This process is to address potential concerns with the township's zoning ordinance. This is not targeted at any specific property or any specific group. This is addressing potential concerns that were raised. And now that application has completed its process, the township is addressing potential concerns in the township zoning ordinance.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. We have somebody else coming up. No, this lady in the back.
Oh, I know.
She did. The one that's coming up.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name's Hannah Halsey. I'm a resident of Upper Gwynedd. I live at 300 Gwynedd Avenue, right next door to 308 Gwynedd.
Can you spell your last name?
Haulcy, Halsey.
Yeah, I had that all messed up.
I'm just going to take a quick minute to share my personal experiences. I work from home, so I am there almost every day, all day. I have come across a woman coming off of our trampoline, which is at the furthest point of our property. So they had to walk across 308, walk across the back of 300 to get on the trampoline. There's a particular woman who likes to walk through the neighborhoods in bare feet, which is fine. I love walking in bare feet, but she's walking through people's property. There's a couple things I've experienced. There's the fire that I saw in the middle of the night and had to call. There's just, I had to approach them for them to realize they literally had cemented a mailbox 20 yards from a property marker. They could see it. They had to look at it while they dug the hole. I mean, there's just boundaries that I think are being crossed. And I just think that should be something that's taken into consideration. That was it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Carl?
I would like to, I guess, understand what initiated this process to go through this curative amendment process. Was it this property or, and a follow-up to that, I guess, while we're discussing it, it would be, if the property is, I guess the question is the property compliant with the existing zoning, which means what's allowed in this R2 area? And if not, I'm confused, I guess, what I'm trying to say here, because it seems like the issue is this is a business inside a residential area, which none of us would like to see. From what I can tell, this is an approach taken by the township to fill a gap inside the zoning, which apparently, does it allow for this or does it not allow for it? I guess that's the first question. But what's going on there, that business?
As I said earlier, there was an application made to the Township Zoning Hearing Board. The application itself was a little unclear, but there was a suggestion that there was a gap in the township's code. Now that that matter has concluded, the township is taking the opportunity to review that so that there's no challenges to the validity of the township's code on this basis.
The gap being that it would be allowed.
That there was an allegation, there was a suggestion to that point, but the
Okay.
township.
Well, that's
township
what I'm
doesn't
trying to get to.
necessarily
In
agree
other
with
words,
that.
there's a gap.
The township doesn't necessarily agree with that. That's what we're reviewing.
Well, that's just the process. You're going to review and figure out if there is a gap.
Correct.
So right now, this business is allowed to operate because there's a gap.
I'm not sure that there is, there was a.
You never
boarding
get straight
house-
answers. I just need a straight answer. Is this business allowed
Smith,
or not
Mr.
allowed?
Smith, you're going to have to let me answer the question.
Okay.
One, you're characterizing this as a business. I'm not sure that that's accurate, but there's enforcement proceedings regarding a property that was discussed earlier. The township is engaged in enforcement proceedings, but separately from that, this process is being engaged. They're two separate issues.
Right now, then, this, whatever it is allowed to operate as it is operating.
The township is engaged in enforcement proceedings regarding the property that was referenced earlier.
One other thing about South Broad. Those folks that are in there, have you confirmed that they're even legal residents, or do you not want to touch that either?
Mr. Smith, there's no violation of township code there.
It's a violation of law if they're illegal residents. You're not worried about that. I'm pretty sure you're not.
Carl, I think you're aware that the township police or the township staff wouldn't be enforcing immigration issues. Surely you know that.
They're not enforcing it, but they certainly should be aware if someone's illegal.
It would be illegal for us to knock on doors and demand proof of
No, I'm not
citizenship
saying
from
that.
everybody.
Greg,
So
you
I'm
know
not-
that.
So I'm
They're
not
putting
sure.
words in my mouth.
I'm not sure what expectation you would have from the township in that regard.
It's clear that it's a boarding house. You're saying you can't move on that direction because you've gone through all these steps that Megan laid out. I'm asking you if you've checked into whether or not they're legal residents, if that's part of the process.
That would have, the township code enforcement has no jurisdiction over that. So that would not be something that township code enforcement will look into.
I'm not optimistic that it's going to get resolved in a nice way.
Thank you.
We have another public comment.
I'm sorry. Come on up.
Morning. Lance Wexler, 322, or 221 Gwynedd Avenue, sorry. A lot of threes out there.
Wexler?
Yeah.
Is it?
Wexler. So I just had a question as for enforcement when it comes to code. If they are operating, whatever they're operating, whether it be a business or not a business, if they don't have proper sprinkler system, egress, things of that nature to help those that live there, if there were to be an incident, who's held liable for that? If it's allowed to operate and continue.
It depends on the nature of the use, but for residential structures, and I'll defer to Mr. Conroy, I don't even know if you can answer this offhand, but I don't believe that sprinklers are required in a residential use. Correct. And
So
if
if
it's an
the-
existing building, and again, there's different codes that apply depending on what the use group is, whether or not a building can be required to be retrofitted with sprinklers. But in large part, I believe the answer is that it cannot.
So if right now it is operating as an illegal boarding house and they don't have a sprinkler system, and let's say there's a fire and you knew that they're illegally operating a boarding house, who's liable for that?
I mean, it's difficult to answer a hypothetical, but again, the township's involved in enforcement proceedings, and the liability would be with the property owner.
Okay.
Generally speaking, again, hard to answer a hypothetical.
Only because I don't want to see anything bad happen in my neighborhood. There's already been a lot of incidents, and I just think there's got to be a way to enforce the current laws and statutes that exist within our township, so that way they're not able to put other people and their residents at harm.
I'm going to make an offer to the residents of your neighborhood, Lance, that if they'd like, I already have a lot of the contact information. But what you can do, something we've found successful in other neighborhoods, is that we do a weekly Friday update to you all to let you know what's going on with our enforcement proceedings and how things are going. So I think that would help a little bit to keep you guys informed. If you would like to talk as a group to decide who should be on that email list, or if you just want me to send it to one person or whatever you guys want it to be, I know you have my email address. Please send me your emails and we can do a weekly update in which we can tell you, we can't necessarily tell you if we're thinking about enforcing something, but if we've taken an actual enforcement action, we can give you an update on what's happening with that enforcement action. As you know, there's already a zoning enforcement action at play. I've spoken with a couple of your neighbors and they've indicated some other code enforcement issues that might be coming up. So we as a township need to talk about as staff how we're going to move that forward. But what I can say is I'm happy to keep you guys updated every week.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
And we also ask that we have an increased police presence as well. That is very helpful. We did see them drive by
Great.
a
I'm
lot
glad.
for about a week, but we've seen it kind of drop off a little bit.
It will continue. It's just always about what's going on. Like we have a lot
Oh,
of
we
places
understand.
in the township that we have to do. They call it a directed patrol, but I know you're still on the directed patrol list.
All right. Thank you so much.
And I want to reiterate, please call 911 if you see something that concerns you in your neighborhood. That's for everyone, not just in your neighborhood.
Everything, like even jumping on a trampoline. Like, call the police.
Yeah, you can call the police for that. That's trespassing. Yeah.
I know we feel bad, like if they're parking on their property, but they're on their grass, is that an instance where we call the police and like, we don't want to play boy who cry wolf with an emergency when we actually have a true emergency? Now the police go, oh, it's just, 308 parking on the
Calling
grass
911 because every resident that I've ever talked to about calling 911 says exactly what you just said. It's a very common, like our police exist. One of our sergeants is here in the audience to serve our residents. So whether it's a parking issue or a major crime concern, either way you should call. The one point I want to make is if someone's parking on your property, that's not an enforcement issue for the police because the police enforce the laws on the roadways, but it could be a code enforcement issue. So either way, you call 911, they'll direct you to the correct place. If the police say, oh, we can't help you, they'll call over to our side of the building and code enforcement will be dispatched. Code enforcement is only here Monday through Friday, whereas the police are here 24/7, which is why I say call 911, because you'll always get an answer from our police department, no matter what time of day it is, or if it's Christmas or whatever. So
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Did you want to say something?
Oh,
Yeah.
sure, Dave. Come on up. You
Get
have to come up,
to the mic.
Dave. You know the
Yeah,
rules.
come
You
on,
work
Dave.
here. He's outraged.
No, I just wanted to address the parking issue. The property was
Dave,
issued.
I'm sorry. Could you introduce yourself?
I'm David Conroy. I'm the zoning officer
Thank
for
you.
Gwynedd Township. I did issue a notice of violation roughly a month ago for illegal parking on the property because they were parking all over the grass, which is not allowed according to our zoning code. They will be getting a citation this Monday. If that's not rectified, I'm assuming it won't be rectified by then. So we have been enforcing the parking on the property for the last month or two. So I just wanted to chime in on that. That's all. So, thank you.
Thanks for that update.
Thank you. We're back to the motion. Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. And with that being said, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you and have a great day.